Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a beautiful and inspiring Hanukkah with your family. Parashat Vayigash is one of those parashos that falls either the last days of Hanukkah or shortly after. Yaakov sends his sons down to Egypt at the end of our last week's Parashas Miketz, and he's hesitant about sending Binyamin, but the viceroy of Egypt says, "If you want food, I want to see little Benny." And Yosef, who no one else knows is the viceroy, sets up Binyamin to take the fall, to determine whether his brothers will stand up for him, rectifying their mistake when they sent Yosef into servitude. And there's a dramatic scene at the beginning of Parashat Vayigash, but to make a long story short, Yehuda steps up, defends Binyamin. Yosef reveals himself to his family, and he tells him, "Bring my father, bring Yaakov, and everybody down." Everybody comes. There's going to be 5 more years of famine. Just come down. I'm the second in command of Mitzrayim. It'll be good for you guys here. And Yaakov agrees with Yosef's assessment, and he prepares his family to leave their homestead in the land of Canaan, which would be the land of Israel, to make the journey down to Egypt. But before he does, the Torah tells us how Yaakov was going to transition his family to Egyptian life. In chapter 46, verse 28, Perek Mem Vav Pasuk Chaf Ches, the Torah says, "Ves Yehuda shalach lefanav el Yosef." Yaakov sent Yehuda to go before him to Yosef, laharos lefanav Goshna, to prepare ahead of him in Goshen, according to the Art Scroll translation. The Medrash Tanchuma tells us, as quoted by Rashi on that verse, that it wasn't just to prepare their homes, their neighborhoods. It wasn't to line up good apartment buildings. Make sure you pick property that's not right across the street from a fire station. Grew up the street from one. We heard them in the middle of the night. For some reason, if the firefighters are up, they feel everyone in the neighborhood has to be up with them. I feel like when I was older, they stopped blaring their sirens while they're flooring up the street at 50 miles an hour in the middle of the night. Thank God for that. You'd still hear the loud diesel engine. It's not that Yaakov was telling them, make sure you're not right across the street from the fire station. Make sure you're not across from the street where there's a sketchy park in the middle of the night where people shoot up drugs. Right? My wife grew up 2 blocks away from one of those places. It's not like Yaakov told him, about the zoning or what to be aware of. Our rabbis tell us that Yaakov sent Yehuda down specifically to set up a study hall for Jewish learning, a base medrash. And it was most important to Yaakov that Torah study be the foundation of their life transitioning to Egypt. That was the foundation of their life in the land of Canaan. That was going to be their foundation in their sojourn in Egypt. And I think it's important to keep this idea in mind, because Torah is the tree of life, the Eitz HaChaim, that keeps us alive in our exile. And it's one of the major themes of Hanukkah, that the Greeks, among other things, abolished the study of Torah for the Jewish people, because they realized how important Torah is to our foundation of our national and individual relationships with God. You can't figure out what another party in a relationship wants without reading the letter that they send to you about what it means. Our rabbis give the analogy that the Torah is our ksuba. It's our marriage document between us and God. And in it delineates the respective responsibilities for God to humanity and for humanity to God, and for God to the individual and to the individual Jew to God. Without studying that, Yaakov knew that the relationship with God would falter. It would disappear. And as we say, when we put the Torah back into the Aron, the Torah is an Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim Bo. It is a tree of life for those who grab hold of it. And the implication of those words is that if someone lets go of the Torah, unfortunately they're going to get swept away. But as soon as a person reaches out and grabs hold of the Torah, grabs hold of that connection to the Almighty, they're connected to the source of life. They're thereby connected to Hashem. The charge, based on this idea, is that each one of us should make sure that every day we spend at least 5 minutes connecting to Hashem by learning His Torah. There are so many apps that have short, sweet, and to the point Torah ideas. There are so many books that have short, sweet ideas in the Torah. Artschool made a whole series about it called The Daily Dose of Torah. You want an app that discusses short, meaningful ideas? It's called literally Meaningful Minute. They don't promise to keep them to a minute, but they're close. You want something longer? There's yutorah.com. There's torahanytime.com. outorah.com. There's a theme about this. Right? There's a lot of, Torah is usually in the name. And it's all free. And if you're not into audio-visual, you can pick up any book. You can pick up your Chumash. You can pick up a book of Jewish law. You can pick up a book of Jewish thought. But make 5 minutes at least, each and every day, to learn more about what it means to be connected to Hashem and to deepen our understanding and connection to the divine. Have a great week.